This is Dan Ferraro. It's a new day in Utopia, and you're listening to Bring Me Your Torch with Patriot Jesse, Polyamorous Elaine, and not Beekeeper Jake.
Welcome to another episode of Bring Me Your Torch. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Elaine.
And today's episode is brought to you by Loot Crate. We've mentioned this before, Elaine. I'm a giant geek. I'm into comic books, movies, Game of Thrones, all that crap, all that wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Well, Loot Crate is something that every geek has to have. It's a monthly mystery crate that delivers the best in geek and gaming gear. I mean, you got shirts, collectibles, gadgets. It's basically Comic-Con in a box. Actually, you might even say it's Kineticon in a box, which I attended last week. So you get all of that for under $20. And to save 10% on any new subscription, just go to trylootcrate.com/torch and enter promo code BRIDGE10. That's trylootcrate.com/torch and use promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% off. Pretty good deal, huh?
It's pretty awesome.
So how you doing, Elaine?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm taking a break from being on the beach and getting drunk, but, I have to make these sacrifices to come talk to you every once in a while.
Yeah, but you did a pretty awesome interview.
Yeah, and we want to make sure we brought you guys now, especially while I'm out on vacation. We can't do a full episode. This is with iconic actor, John Rhys-Davies. He's from Indiana Jones. He's from Sliders. He's from Lord of the Rings, where he played Gimli the dwarf. He's been in a million things. And he gave me a pretty good interview, don't you think?
I thought it was fantastic. You did a fantastic job. And
thank you.
It was kind of fitting. You guys have to listen to this interview because he talks about the Brexit. He talks about past roles. He talks about the fan reception and perception of him. It was great.
Yeah, and I have to apologize. This was at the Kineticon, so there were a lot of people in the background. So you're going to hear some background noise. But, you listen to him talk and his wonderful, wonderful, I don't know if it's Welsh accent or British accent. He was born in England, but his family was Welsh. I don't want to get in trouble and say which accent is which, but the accent's just wonderful. And he was really playful. Even when the microphone went off, he was a really nice guy. He talked to me for about 5 minutes, took a lot of pictures. Just wonderful guy. So I figured we will play that interview for you right now.
Sounds good.
I am here with legendary actor. I can say legendary, right?
Oh, in his own mind, legendary.
We're all legends in our own mind. John Rhys-Davies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Lovely to be here.
So, you really are associated with a lot of iconic film roles. And in my experience, people with iconic film roles fall into one of three categories. Either you embrace it, either you just accept it, or either you're so sick of hearing about the same roles over and over again, you want to blow your brains out. Where do you fall under?
Well, there were three categories, and you only gave me two, by the way. Well, yes, of course, I embrace it. I've had the good fortune to do a huge number of parts, and some of which have been I've been part of late 20th century culture, and that's what a privilege that is. I mean, how can you grumble or complain about that? To have been in Star Trek Voyager, to have done a Bond film, to have done Lord of the Rings, to have done Shogun or Sliders or Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, how lucky does a man get to be? You can't sit and bitch and moan about that.
I totally agree, and I like hearing that answer because we're all kind of geeks in our own way, and we like to think that the people playing these roles we love embrace it just as much as we do. Yeah. So I'm really happy to hear that you really love doing these jobs.
Yes, I do.
So how have you found the convention scene? There are a lot of great people at these things, but between you and me, there's a lot of interesting people that attend a lot of these. Have you had any interesting fan encounters?
I actually increasingly regard fan conventions as one of the more important parts of my life. Let me tell you why. A, because it gives me a chance to meet the people who've been putting the bread and butter on my table for 50 years. But more importantly, if I'm smart enough to get them to talk about themselves, I learn an awful lot about how they feel at this given moment in time. It's not like putting your finger on the pulse of a nation. You get the pulse of a little community somewhere, and bit by bit you build up a bigger picture. And I'm astounded at myself. When I was young, I didn't much care for humanity. It was about me. as I get older and older, I find myself liking people more and more. And they teach me so much. They just teach me so much.
I actually spent the last 10 years in Washington, D.C., so I saw you at D.C.'s Awesome Con last year with Sean Astin. I know you obviously filmed the movies together, but you guys end up spending a lot of time on the convention circuit together, doing a lot of panels, and if so, have you gotten a deeper relationship with him?
Well, you know, we bump into each other on the convention circuit, and as you bump into any old friends, you know, you know, actors that you worked with 10, 20, 30 years ago, you bump into. And it's a joy because in the end, at the beginning of your thing, you feel you're very in a competition. After you've been in it long enough, you realize that anyone who's still standing has got something really special, and you just love them for it.
Yeah, it's kind of a shared experience you guys have throughout the years. So, I have to say, I prefer you over Sean because his people wouldn't let me have an interview with him, and you were gracious enough to let me sit here and talk to you for a few minutes.
Well, that surprises me, to be honest with you. That surprises me. But, you know, don't blame Sean because he'll talk to anyone. Tell him I said that.
Now, some of the big movies you've been in. So obviously, Sallah is an integral and classic character in the Indiana Jones movies. How did you become involved with Raiders, and are you surprised that 35 years later, you're still a big fan favorite?
Oh, yes. I mean, Sallah is possibly the last popular Arab character in Western popular culture, which says a sad amount about the way our times have changed. Basically, I had done Shogun, and Shogun had been very successful, and on the result of that, I got Victor Victoria, and I think Spielberg, who had loved Shogun, called up Blake Edwards and said, "What's he like?" And Blake probably said, "He's a complete shit, but he's okay." And I got it, so it was wonderful.
Now, I know you turned down a little cameo in Crystal Skull. Are we going to see you by any chance in the upcoming, at least the planned upcoming one, was 2019, I think?
Well, as far as I know, the script hasn't been written yet, so I don't really know. I cannot say that my phone has been ringing off the hook. There has been no sort of urgent request from Mr. Spielberg for me to go and have dinner or anything like that. It really depends on where they're going to locate it. I think in a way, the return of Sallah would be popular, but times have changed, and you know, where would Sallah be now? Well, I'd like to think that Sallah would have been that odd little man, 82, Walid al-Assad, who was beheaded in Palmyra for defending his museum and refusing to give the whereabouts of the museum's greatest treasures. I like to think that Sallah would have respected history and does respect history in a way that sometimes in the world we are ceasing to respect it.
I think it should be known that there have been 4 Indiana Jones movies, and the 2 most popular ones happen to have you in it. Coincidence? I don't think so.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I also was reading, and I don't mean to repeat questions you've probably been asked a million times, but you almost turned down the role in Lord of the Rings. How did you end up taking it? And I'm assuming you're happy you did.
Well, I'm very happy I did in retrospect. But A, I didn't believe that the books could be made into a film. And B, I'm pretty sure that this little man in New Zealand had no idea how to make a movie on that scale. But more than that, why would you want to spend 30 years trying to be recognized and then stick yourself in a piece of plastic? It was one of the hardest shoots that I've ever done, and one of the loneliest shoots I've ever done as well. But I realized very early on that we were going to make a masterpiece, and I had every confidence in that, and I was right.
And I have to say that I have a friend from out of town visiting. When I told him I was coming to talk to you, he was running around all morning going, "And my axe, and that counts," and all the quotes from that movie. I'm like, these are the things you don't say when you meet people, because they probably get yelled at that constantly. You don't want to be one of those guys.
Well, my dear boy, you do get these things. You get the mic goes off after the show. You see, the mic goes off, and he says, "Will you just say for me, nobody tosses a dwarf," or they say, "Could you do asps? Very dangerous. You go first." How wonderful to have just been part of that clutter of general culture that sort of bubbles to the surface of people's consciousness.
And I meant to say this after the Indiana Jones part. I don't want to age you, but Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark came out 2 weeks before I was born. So, you've been around for quite a while, but I mean that in the best possible way, not just...
Oh, yes, indeed. And I have news for you, my boy. It still all works without chemical assistance.
That's a big headline we're going to put on the top of our website after this.
No. But the point I'm making is that, yes, I enjoy work, and I'm fortunate enough still to be employed, and I really haven't... I'm just finishing the end of my apprenticeship. Just wait what happens after this.
Now, I don't want to get you worked up this early in the morning, but one of my favorite shows from the mid-'90s was Sliders, and it was great for a time, and I think, don't take this the wrong way, I think you got out the right time. I know you've had a contentious relationship with the show and things. Can you say anything about that?
Well,
with
yes,
being nice?
I can, and I give myself a black mark for not being nice, but it still irritates me, because we had the opportunity to do the best adventure sci-fi show on television. We could have gone anywhere in space, we could have gone anywhere in time, and we could still be on the air, for goodness sake. And we had the dumbest writers and the producers, and producers who had no vision. It really does help if you're going to write science fiction that you know a little bit about science, for instance, or at least sort of, understand enough to ask what sort of questions. But you can go anywhere. What an opportunity this.
I always thought, rather than having what if men could have babies, you should have, what if the Nazis won World War II, or things that were, I think in the preview, in the pilot episode, you had, what if the communists won type thing, but a lot of them just became more and more outrageous, and they were trying to, Jurassic Park was out, let's do a dinosaur one. Ooh, Twister was out, let's do a...
We did Twisters, we did Tremors, we did Night of the Living Dead, we did The Island of Dr. Moreau. Actually, for that one, we used the masks of the film that had just come out. And for me, the absolute breaking point was, when I went in and they just released Species, and there were the writers just poring over the DVD and saying, well, we could take a bit of that scene there, we could do a bit of this scene there. I worked with real writers for whom I have an infinite respect, but this is just sort of, when a producer comes up to me and says, John, look, all we want you to do is play the bad doctor in Lost in Space, and you go, well, why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? I wouldn't have bothered to come in for the audition.
Well, I enjoyed the episodes you were in, and kind of pretend the rest of them didn't happen after a while.
Well, I know it was very sad, but and it was such a good mix of people too, marvelous crews, and some very good producers, very good directors, rather. But what a waste of time. Just.
You've also done a good amount of voice work throughout your time. You actually were in one of my favorite cartoons as a kid of all time, Gargoyles, which I think has gotten a cult following with the years because it actually progressed through the story and things changed. How great is voice work? I mean, did you just go in, bam, 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 and get paid, or is it a lot of work? What would you tell us voice work really is?
Well, I can tell you this, I was pretty execrable playing a Frenchman last week. But, no, we had a bit of fun with it. It's always the same thing. It's telling a story, only this time you don't do it with gestures and with costumes. You just tell the story with your voice. And All these things are challenges, and actors thrive on challenges. Incidentally, gargoyles, what a marvelous thing. The history of Macbeth in Gargoyles is closer to the real historical Macbeth than Shakespeare ever got. It is, the researchers did their work. They were proper writers. Oh, I love real writers.
Now, while I host a pop culture podcast, I am a political scientist by trade.
Really?
Yeah, I worked actually 10 years in Congress, and I say an evil lobbyist down in D.C.
Oh, very good.
So I just read about some of your work petitioning regarding the I hate to say it, the Brexit referendum, because we lived on the Isle of Man. You were out of, I guess, the UK for more than 15 years, and you couldn't vote.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about the whole process?
Well, we need 100,000 votes to create a debate about it. We got 2,200. Shows you how politically effective I am. But then I don't do social media, and as you can see, that's my communication.
We're seeing a phone from circa 2002 he's holding up right now.
That's right, Nokia 6310i. And very good, long-lasting batteries. But the point was to say, was to put a marker down and simply say, look, you cannot, if this is, you have defined this referendum too narrowly. It was put on as a referendum for Britain and the common market. In fact, it turned out to be the United Kingdom and the common market. And there are a lot of British people who are not in the United Kingdom through historical accident. I mean, the Isle of Man is not part of the United Kingdom because King James I bought it from the Earl of Athol. And after the Civil War, when Parliament was saying, well, give us all the hereditary things and we will vote you a supply of money, O King, to rule the country. King Charles, his son, said, what about the Isle of Man? And they turned around and said, thank you very much. Your father never paid for it, so it's not yours. So the Queen is Lord of Man, as indeed in Normandy, the Channel Islands, the Channel Islands came to Britain with William the Conqueror. They were the personal possessions of the Duke of Normandy. So the Queen is still Duke of Normandy. And it's this wonderful sort of strange little historical connections that make life so interesting and rich. But it does not mean to say that people who fought against the Spanish Armada, whose people fought against Napoleon and Hitler, should be disbarred because they happen to live on the Isle of Man and are not part of the United Kingdom.
Well, I'm sorry that didn't work out for you. I couldn't believe you only got 2,000 plus signatures. Well, no,
but we got a lot of attention, and we drove attention to the fact that we wanted to make. The outcome, by the way, is, for me, the first time in 43 years that I felt that Britain has a future. And the outcome for you, our American cousins, is important too. Because like us or hate us, and sometimes we do both, don't we? We are cousins, and we are there for each other when the poop really hits the fan. And if we had not done this, we would no longer have been able to be your allies.
Well, we're running short on time here, so just one last question before we go. You recently, on MTV's Shannara Chronicles, played an elf. So, elf or dwarf?
Yeah. One of the reasons for doing that, of course, was to be able to say to a certain young elf, from dwarf to elf king, eat your heart out, Orlando Bloom.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I really appreciate it.
May I say, I urge your people to come and join us here at Convention Center here in Hartford. It's going to be a wonderful gathering of wonderful people, and we'll have a blast.
I'm already having a blast. Thank you so much.
Take care.